Alright guys, so we have a very interesting fight. Jason Radcliffe and Damian Janikowski. It's a middleweight fight at KSW 59 fight code. And guys, the odds right here, minus 225 for the moderate favorite in Damian Janikowski, and then plus 163 for the slight underdog in Jason Radcliffe. Don't let these odds fool you. Look down here at the tables of predictions. Out of 122 different votes, it is literally a 50-50 fight on these tabloid predictions, and the underdog has more votes than Janikowski, 51% going for Radcliffe to win the fight, mainly by KO or TKO, and then a lot of people have won the fight by decision, 49% going for Janikowski, mainly by decision, and then a couple of people have won the fight by KO or TKO. I mean, this is very interesting. The underdog is actually favored in the tablet predictions, and not like a really slight underdog. A man that is literally a 2-1 underdog. That is literally insane. Jason Radcliffe, 16 wins and 7 losses. He's fought inside of Cage Warriors, KSW, even inside of Bellator. Fought some guys that have joined the UFC, one of the best organizations for MMA in the entire world. He's 191 pounds in his last fight, 6 foot 1 inch tall, has a reach of 76.5 inches. Damian Janikowski, this man is an amazing wrestler. Amazing wrestler. Finishes a lot of his fights by KO or TKO with a lot of ground and pound, or even he doesn't even really have to use that wrestling because he has a really good right hand. It can knock you out literally any second of the fight. 5 wins and 3 losses. Every single one of his fights being inside of KSW. As I said before, he's the minus 225 moderate favorite in the fight. 31 and a half years old. 5 foot 11 inches tall and has a reach of 70 and a half inches. That is definitely a factor right there because the reach of Jason Radcliffe and the height of Jason Radcliffe are definitely huge advantages for him in the fight. But none of that is really going to matter if Damian Janikowski takes the fight to the ground, because if this man takes you to the ground, he's going to get a TKO. He's going to dominate you on the ground and get a 30-27, 30-26 dominant decision. It really depends on if Damian Janikowski can get the fight to the ground. If he can't get the fight on the ground, he still has a really good striking game, and he probably would fare quite well against Jason Radcliffe. But that reach advantage and that height advantage kind of worries me a little bit for Damian Janikowski on the feet. So I would say Damian Janikowski's best bet for this fight would be to take the fight to the ground. Go for some submissions, go for some TKOs, try to keep the fight on the ground for as long as possible, get a lot of control time ground and pound and win the fight by decision or TKO. That would be Damian Janikowski's best bet of winning the fight. Jason Radcliffe obviously wants to keep the fight on the feet and win the fight by KO because he has a lot of KOs. I mean, come on, 16 wins, 7 losses. Just look right here, 10 KO and TKOs. That pretty much sums up this man's career so far. 4 submissions, and only one of his fights, one pro MMA fight, going to the judges' scorecards, and then 1 win by DQ. His 7 losses, 4 by KO, and 3 by submission. So pretty much every single one of his fights, except for this one right here, has gone in the first, second, or third round. It is ended by KO, TKO, or submission. He either kills you with a knockout, submission, or TKO, or he gets killed himself. So this should be a very interesting fight. I cannot wait for this one to happen. So he lost his one by first knockout. Just got like 5 first knockout wins in a row. 4 first round knockouts and a third round knockout. Lost one by submission. Went on an absolute tear with like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 finishes in a row. Absolutely insane. Fought Oscar Piechota inside of Cage Warriors. Oscar Piechota is inside of the UFC right now. He fought Shane Mitchell, lost that fight by second round knockout. Went into Bellator, fought John Salter, who is definitely a good fighter, who fought inside the UFC as well. Lost that fight by first round submission. First round knockout win here. Fought Vinicius Maheda, who is also inside the UFC, as you guys can see here. 4 fights inside the UFC and on Dana White's Contender Series. Fought James Webb, went on a tear, got 3 wins in a row, but 2 by knockout and 1 by decision. I mean, dude, he's fought so many legit competition. I definitely don't know why they have him that big of an underdog. The only reason I would think that he's that big of an underdog is because Damian Janikowski has really good wrestling. 5 wins and 3 losses. This man's wrestling, it's just absolutely insane. Even though you see right here, first round knockout, second round knockout, and first round knockout, even though he's getting most of his wins by knockout, his ground game, his submissions, his ground and pound is just so good. And add that to the fact that he has a really good right hand. He can knock you out at any second in the fight. That is just a dangerous combination for a guy that's literally been to the wrestling championship, in the World Wrestling Championship. I mean, that's just absolutely insane. His only losses to Alexander Leak, if I'm saying the name correctly, Michael Materia, who literally has 26 wins and 6 losses, a real veteran fighter inside of the KSW. 3 knockout wins, 1 submission win, and 1 decision win. This should be a very, very amazing fight. I cannot wait for this fight to happen. To be quite honest, I said it before and I'll say it again. Jason Radcliffe should not be this big of an underdog. For the tabloid prediction to have him as as a favorite when the betting odds have him as the underdog, that just tells you that this fight is up for grabs. If Jason Radcliffe, he's fighting on the feet, he's gonna win the fight most likely. It just depends on if Damian Janikowski can land that shot with his very, very small reach. Because I mean, Jason Radcliffe, that amazing reach advantage, that amazing height advantage. Ultimately, if the fight is on the feet, I think Jason Radcliffe could kind of do enough to win the fight on the feet, but Damian Janikowski, the wrestling, the big right hand, I think that's going to be a little bit too much, but I definitely would not put a bet down on Damian Janikowski, especially at these 2-to-1 odds, because Jason Radcliffe, you just don't know it. You just don't know with Jason Radcliffe. He can definitely go out there and dominate the fight on the feet, defend the takedowns, and win the fight by TKO, KO. I mean, every single one of his wins, except for one being by finish. But ultimately, I'm going to go with Damian Janikowski to win the fight by decision. I think it's going to be a very interesting fight. It just depends on, in my opinion, if Damian Janikowski can get the fight to the ground, and I think he will get the fight to the ground, but I definitely am not putting a bet on Damian Janikowski, but that's my prediction. Damian Janikowski, I have him winning the fight by 30-27 unanimous decision.